My kids are all at different ages, from 28 to 10. So I've got children coming in from work and children coming in from school at 3 o'clock. So we don't really have a regular house. So having that ability to batch cook makes a massive difference in our house. And it also saves time. And it's one of my favourite nights of the week at home, where I will make, a week's worth of food in that night, and I get some music on, and and it saves a lot of money as well. It's, because if you buy a bag of onions and you're making 3 or 4 different things from that, you're using them all up. But not only are you using them all up, if you plan it properly, you're chopping them all at the same time. So you're taking a little bit from each. It also saves on energy at home as well. I do a lot of things like the cottage pie. If I was making that at home, I make it just like any regular person, browning the mince and adding the vegetables and so forth. And once it's at that stage where you're going to cook it out, I put a lid on it and I put it in the oven. But I might also have something like a curry or a bolognese for a lasagna or something in that oven as well. So I can get 3 pots in the oven at the same time. So again, you're cutting your costs. So it's just about working smart with what you've got. And what I also find as well, if you're batch cooking, you actually eat better, because there's not every night that you want to come home and cook food. So if you've already done it, if you've done all the hard work earlier in the week, you've got a really easy and nutritious meal for everyone. And the reality is as well, when you're cooking your own, you know exactly what's in it. There's a kind of misconception, I think, that homemade food's more expensive than buying convenience. It's not. If you make your own food, with recognisable ingredients that your granny would recognise, you're fueling the body better than you would be if you're buying something that's been made in a factory somewhere. It's much better for your body. I'm never a fan of leaving a potato in the bottom of a bag. Get it mashed, and even if you don't use it, you've got a little tub of mashed potato that can then go with something else. And what you'll find as well when you're shopping, if you get access to a supermarket, you'll find that all the stuff that's in season, all the stuff that's actually really cheap, is right at the door when you walk in. So if you walk into the supermarket, you see, certain things, they're dictated by what's available and what's cheap. And if you're buying those sorts of things, you will find it's a lot cheaper than sticking to your usual routine. So have a look about. Food has got expensive, but I still think there's great value in fruit and veg. And I don't think that has increased the same way that other things. A bag of potatoes price hasn't changed for a long time. Or on carrots, nothing cheaper than carrots in a supermarket. And again, such a great way of building up. I'm going to put some carrots, some onions. I like mushrooms, they're not for everyone. I'm also a huge fan of frozen peas, love them. Really convenient. You can always have a bag in the freezer. Again, they're really cheap. And I find myself putting a handful of frozen peas into everything. And it's just because I love them, but it's because they're so easy. They're in the freezer. So they're just so easy to access. So you're getting something that's, again, nutritious, cheap. And I don't know a kid yet that doesn't like peas. Things like carrots and peas are nice and colourful and bright, and they're actually quite sweet. So I think when cooking for kids, it's introducing them to foods early on. And again, what I've found, there's no perfect answer. I have as much trouble as any parent, getting kids to eat and things like that. But what I've found is, if I can get my kids involved in the process, so even down to when you go shopping, I remember my kids still being in the seat in the trolley, my two youngest, and we would let them pick a vegetable, and they would argue who bought the best vegetable, and then when you cook it, who's got the best looking, and then then in the end, who's got the tastiest veg, and they argue over it. I think a lot of mums look at themselves a little bit different when they're pregnant, because they're not just responsible for themselves. So I think it's important. Again, it's just to get as much non-processed food as possible. I would say we used to, again, batch cook separate things for our kids. Maybe not so much when they were 3, but when they were first starting to eat solid food, and things like stews and soups always went down well. And it's funny, you don't get fussy babies. If it's hot and it's tasty. Once they're sort of past those early months, it doesn't have to be too far from what you're cooking yourself. I think as long as you're cooking, as long as you're making fresh food, and again avoiding highly processed ingredients. I think if you're doing it yourself, you'll save a fortune. There's a whole host of really fancy little pouches full of carrot puree and everything else. You know, that's enough carrot to make carrot puree for a month, and it's cost 40p. So pureeing a carrot, it's a pretty easy thing to do. So, and again, you can add different things to it. So, I mean, carrots are great for kids. As you say, there's things like stewed apples and things like that. It's just a case of experimenting, I think, and seeing what your child likes. Yeah. But and there's loads of resources online. A lot of really good content online where you can get ideas and things like that. But the shops are full of great food. It's just having that ability to change your habits in what you're buying. We're all creatures of habit. We go to the supermarket, park in the same place, pick a trolley from the same bit, and go around the supermarket picking up the exact same stuff we did the last time we were there. Go home, and you'll find half the stuff still in the fridge that's going to end up in the bin. So it's just about changing things up. And there's loads of resources. There'll be websites where you can put in ingredients that will give you a dish back. There's so many worldly foods. If you want to go down a really quick, a lot of Asian foods really quick, Italian, Mediterranean foods really quick and healthy. And all those ingredients are available, even in convenience stores. I did star in a show called Corner Shop Cook Off, and we were challenged to do a 2-course meal for 4 people for £10. And every convenience store was completely different. Some were amazing and had loads of stuff, others didn't. But it could be done, and some of the food that we cooked was quite amazing. Just a little bit of imagination and utilising what was in the shop. It really got us thinking. Most of the episodes I got beat by my chef that I invited on, but it was great fun. And I think what it did really showcase is, convenience stores are there and should be used, and a lot of people have to use them. A lot of people don't have access to supermarkets. Growing up, everything we ever got came from our local convenience store. And that was just how it was. No one was any different. The nearest supermarket was a couple of miles away, and it was probably a once a month type visit that my mum would make. So a lot of people are still in that situation. And I really like the convenience stores. I like the owners, and I think what you'll find, if you build that relationship. We've got a convenience store in the village where my kids go to school, and the owner is like the village legend. But he's the kind of person who will bring something in. If the kids are asking for something that's not on the shelves, they've got access to it and they can bring it in. So again, it's building that little bit of a relationship. And the more sort of fresh food that you use from a shop like that, they will increase it. These guys are there as a service to the community. And if you're not buying it, they won't buy it. And if you're buying it, they will. So it's building that relationship and sometimes asking, any chance we can get in, Red Roosters or whatever. So the Best Start Foods card is a great idea. And it's just like any other bank card. You can go to the self-service kiosk and tap and go. Really easy to use. There's not a lot you actually have to do. It tops up automatically if you're still eligible for it. And it's a great resource to get some more healthy food into the house and into your family. I do the shopping a lot, and I do most of the cooking at home. And I do, I've got a big family, so you do have to shop smart, and make sure you're getting full advantage. Things like when I batch cook, it really helps. It saves a lot of time and a lot of money. But you have got to be careful, especially with the prices going up, and making sure that you use everything that you've bought. I mean, that extra money every month that goes onto the card can make a huge difference to your weekly shop. You can also use the card as a part payment. So if you've got a little bit left, but the money also carries over. So if you've got anything left in the card the following month, it's the other cash is added on. I think a lot of people are wary when they see things like this coming through the door. If it's too good to be true, it normally isn't. But this is, make sure if it comes through the door, read the information and get the card used. It's just like any other. It's just like any other way of getting money. If you see this coming through the door and you've got any questions or any doubts about it, just call the number that's on it, and you'll get all the information on how it works.